Hello students, hope you all are doing good. Here we are discussing the second part of life processes. So in the last lecture we had discussed regarding the autotrophic nutrition, and in today's lecture we are going to study about heterotrophic nutrition. So as in the last lecture I had just told you that whenever we talk of any term in biology, we should always split the term. So heterotrophic nutrition. Nutrition is uptake of food. Hetero and trophic means the organism is dependent on some other organism for food. So organisms which are taking such type of food means dependent on others. Those organisms are also called as heterotrophs. Now there are different types of heterotrophic nutrition, like saprophytic nutrition. In saprophytic nutrition, what happens? The organism releases certain extracellular enzyme. Extracellular means outside the cell, outside the body, they release certain enzymes and they degrade the food partially. And then they take up this, absorb this food, and then proper breakdown of food is happening. So these organisms generally feed on dead and decayed organic matter like fungus and yeast. So saprophytes are those organisms which release extracellular enzymes and they feed on dead decayed matter, and the food is generally broken down outside the body only. Next, coming to holozoic nutrition. In holozoic nutrition, it is like humans, okay, and few animals also. We take up whole chunk of the food material, right, and then it is broken down inside the body with certain enzymes. So that is why this nutrition is referred to as holozoic, means the whole junk, the complete material of food we are taking up, and inside the body through our digestive system it is broken down and digested. Then the other type is parasitic nutrition. A parasite is an organism which derives the nutrition from any living organism, maybe plant and animal, by just sticking on to their body without killing them. Like Cuscuta, which is commonly called as amarbale. This you should remember. This is important for your boards. So Cuscuta amarbale, what it does, it starts growing on another plant. So it takes its nutrition from that plant, but it doesn't kill that plant. Means it is not harmful, but it derives the nutrition by growing onto the other plant. Ticks, leeches, tapeworm, these also are the organisms which are parasites. They will start living or start growing on another organism and they will take up their food. So let us look at nutrition in amoeba. Amoeba, as we all know, is a unicellular organism, and it contains temporary finger-like extensions which are generally called pseudopodia. So these are the finger-like extensions, and this pseudopodia helps in capturing the food. Now pseudopodia, pseudo means false and podia means feet. So these are regarded as false feet. Now why false feet? Because it is not exactly used for locomotion, but mainly it is used for uptake of food. So for example, here in blue, can you see this food material is shown? So this pseudopodia, it will start fusing on this food material, okay, and then it will engulf it inside and it will make a food vacuole. Okay, means this food material is taken up inside the cell, that is inside amoeba, and this structure which is formed is called as food vacuole, where all the food is digested. Then finally, because the food has to be absorbed and given to the different parts of the cell, then the food is properly absorbed and then assimilated and finally ingested. So just let us look at these terms carefully. Ingestion means take up of food. Digestion means that the food is broken down to release energy. So the breaking down process is digestion. Absorption means that in one part of the cell the food is absorbed so that it can be transported to other part of the cell. Assimilated actually means utilization, means here the energy will be produced by the breakdown of food. And finally, whatever undigested food material is there, it will be ingested out of the cell, means the cell will get rid of this in this step, which is ingestion. So main steps even in humans when we will talk about it is ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and egestion. Next, another unicellular organism is there, which is paramecium. So here also the food is taken up through a certain specific area. Like in amoeba, the pseudopodia helps in taking up of food. In paramecium, the cilia. Can you see these hair-like small structures? These are called as cilia. This helps in the take-up of food. Now how? For example, this is the food particle. What will happen? This area, can you see, which is regarded as oral groove. Oral means it will act as like a mouth. Okay, so this food material, with the help of the cilia will start moving and it will capture the food. So somehow the food material will reach in this area, and at this specific spot the paramecium will take up the food, and then in the food vacuole food will be digested and further absorbed, assimilated and digested. Alright. Next, coming to nutrition in humans, which is very, very important for your boards, the diagrams, plus we will talk about different enzymes. So listen very carefully. See, in humans there is alimentary canal. What is alimentary canal? It is a long tube that extends from the mouth to the anus. This whole tube-like structure is called as alimentary canal. Okay, so it begins with the mouth and it ends at the anus. So mouth is also called as buccal cavity, where we take up the food, and anus is the area where egestion takes place, means whatever undigested food material is there, that we are getting rid of it. It is waste in our body. So we'll get rid of that waste material through our anus. So this whole long tube from mouth to anus is referred to as alimentary canal. Then you can see after mouth there is esophagus. Esophagus is the food pipe. Okay, this food pipe, it ends in stomach and it is also linked with liver and gallbladder. Yes, and the gallbladder actually has a duct, okay, through which it will release certain enzymes, that is called as bile duct. Then there is an organ called as pancreas, leaf shaped, which is in continuity with large intestine, which is referred to as colon, and small intestine. Okay, and further it ends in anus. See, large intestine also contains a rudimentary organ, that is appendix. Rudimentary means it is not essential for us. Means if, for example, anybody is facing some problem, maybe it is referred to as appendicitis. What is appendicitis? Means few people can get this problem of inflammation of this organ, that is appendix. So they can get it removed. So there will be no problem in the body. Means so far there is no role of appendix in the body. But some recent researches have shown that appendix might play a role in immune system. Now coming to the digestion part, how the food is digested. First beginning with mouth. So in the mouth, teeth are present. So teeth crushes food. It helps us in crushing the whole chunk of food which we have taken. Then tongue, it helps in chewing of the food, right? Then the mouth also contains saliva, which secretes salivary, which is secreted from salivary glands. See, saliva is like, suppose if I say, okay, let's order a pizza. So by just listening to this word pizza, sometimes our mouth starts watering. So why we say mouth is watering? It is nothing but the saliva in our mouth that starts its secretions from salivary glands. So these glands are the organs which release this saliva, right? Now this saliva, it contains a very important enzyme that is called salivary amylase. Because it is released from salivary glands, it is called salivary. And amylase, see, generally the enzymes have a suffix which is ase, okay, which suggests that it is an enzyme. Amylase actually means it breaks down, amylose means it breaks down carbohydrates. So in the mouth only digestion begins. The starch is broken down to simple sugar in the presence of salivary amylase. Now there is one activity given in your NCERT. Let us discuss that. Two test tubes are taken. In test tube A, starch solution is there. In test tube B also starch solution is there. Now in test tube A, we are also adding saliva. But in test tube B, we are adding water instead of saliva. Now we have to actually check what saliva does to starch. This is the activity to show that in the presence of saliva, starch will be degraded into simple sugar, right? Fine. So this we have to prove by this activity. How we will do? So first we will take test tube A, put saliva and starch. We take test tube B, put water and starch. Now after some time, we add iodine solution to both these test tubes. Now after adding iodine solution, what will happen? See, iodine basically it reacts with starch and forms a blue-black color complex compound it forms, which gives blue-black color. So if starch is present, iodine will react with it and give blue-black color, right? But if starch is absent, iodine cannot react and blue-black color will not be there. So now can you think that out of the test tube A and B, in which you will get blue-black color? Yes, in B, because only starch will be as it is. Yes, and starch is going to react with iodine. But in situation A, in test tube A, the starch is digested by saliva, which contains salivary amylase, to sugar. So sugar will not give positive iodine test. Positive iodine test means blue-black color will be given where starch is present. So in B, in the presence of water, starch will not be degraded. Starch is as it is. So when we add iodine, it will turn blue-black. Next, coming to food pipe. In food pipe, actually no digestion of food happens. It is only a passage through which food will transport from mouth to the stomach. So there are rhythmic contraction of muscles, contraction and relaxation, that is called as peristalsis. This term is important. It helps in the movement of the food to the stomach. Next, coming to stomach. In the wall of stomach rather, there are certain glands, certain organs which will secrete. See, glands are organs which secrete some substance. So gastric glands, wherever gastric word will come, always remember we are talking about stomach. Okay. So gastric gland are present in the walls of stomach. Let us see what all things they secrete and what are the functions. This is very important for your boards. So firstly, it is releasing hydrochloric acid. Now it is an acid, so it will maintain acidic medium in the stomach. Now why this acidic medium is required? First and foremost, it is required to activate pepsin. Pepsin is a digestive enzyme which digests protein. So this enzyme will be activated only in the presence of acid. Secondly, it also kills harmful microorganisms. So hydrochloric acid, what is the importance in the stomach? Firstly, it will make the medium acidic so that the pepsin can react. Secondly, it also kills harmful microbes. Next, coming to pepsin. Pepsin is a digestive enzyme which is digesting proteins, breaking down proteins. Then mucus is also present in the walls of the stomach. What it will do? It will obviously prevent the stomach from the acid. This is a liquid type of lining which will protect the stomach from the hydrochloric acid, right? Next, coming to small intestine. Small intestine is that part of alimentary canal where complete digestion of food takes place. Means whether it is proteins, we are talking about carbohydrates or fats, everything is digested in small intestine. Now small intestine, it receives secretions from liver and pancreas. If you remember the diagram, there was the stomach, here pancreas is there, then the large intestine starts and here only the small intestine begins. So the small intestine is going to receive secretions of pancreas, plus here liver is there and secretions from here also it is going to receive. Let us see what all secretions are there. Firstly, let us see about liver. Liver secretes bile juice and this bile juice contains bicarbonates. Now why? What these bicarbonates are doing? It is making the environment alkaline, basic. Okay. Now this basic environment is very much required to activate the pancreatic enzymes. Listen again. Liver secretes bile juice and this bile juice contains bicarbonates. These bicarbonates make the environment alkaline, that is basic. Now this alkaline environment is very much required to activate the pancreatic enzymes, okay, because the small intestine is also receiving pancreatic juice, okay, the secretions from pancreas. So the enzymes of pancreas will function only in alkaline environment. Then what this bile juice does? This bile juice also breaks down fat globules. See, fat molecules are very complex. So it will break down the fat globules into small parts. This is called as emulsification. Breaking down of large fat molecules into small molecules is called emulsification. Now, why this process is essential? See, fat is a very, you can say, complex molecule. So, enzymes cannot act on such complex molecules. It has to loosen the structure. So, it will help in breaking down the fats or loosening the structure of fats so that enzymes can very much efficiently act on fats. Next, coming to pancreatic juice, means from the pancreas the secretions which are released, those are referred to as pancreatic juice. It contains three very important enzymes: trypsin, lipase and amylase. Trypsin digests proteins, lipase it emulsifies and breaks down fats, amylase it digests starch. So this you have to learn, that in pancreatic juice there is trypsin which will digest protein, lipase will digest the fats and amylase will digest the starch. See, amylase, the enzyme which is there, it will always act on starch. Whether we are saying in saliva also amylase was there, that amylase was called salivary amylase, and in pancreas the amylase which is present, we can call it as pancreatic amylase. So in intestinal juice, finally what will happen, the food is being converted into small parts, okay, it is digested into small particles, small substances, like proteins are degraded into small amino acids, complex carbohydrates are degraded into simple sugar, that is glucose, and fats are degraded into small molecules, fatty acids and glycerol. These are the compounds or simple compounds which are formed after digestion. Now there is a very important concept that small intestine, it is coiled. Yes, it is a coiled structure, but in herbivores this structure is very much coiled than in carnivores. Why? Because meat is very easy to digest than cellulose. So the herbivores have to digest cellulose, which is difficult to digest. That is why it is highly coiled, so that the surface area is more to digest the food particles. Next important thing is that the small intestine, it contains finger-like projections which are known as villi. Now these finger-like projections, again what it is doing, it is increasing the surface area for absorption. So here what concept you have to develop, that in small intestine there is complete breakdown of food plus there is absorption of food also. Both things are taking place, digestion and absorption. And which structures are helping in absorption? Villi. What are villi? These are finger-like projections which are present in small intestine. Now other things, see, because the food is absorbed also in small intestine, so it should have rich supply of blood vessels, right? Why? So that it can transport this absorbed food to each and every cell of the body. Fine. Then other thing is, because absorption is there, then finally it will be assimilated, and this small intestine also helps in building up new tissues and repairing the old tissues. Okay, because it has rich supply of blood vessels, the food is completely digested and absorbed also. Then the next part is large intestine, which is also called colon. Now here the unabsorbed food is absorbed, means the absorption of food starts in small intestine, but some food remains unabsorbed. So whatever leftover food which is not absorbed in small intestine is further absorbed in large intestine. And also in large intestine there is absorption of water, because whenever we are having food inside the body, it is being digested in a water liquid medium. So the water has to be absorbed, all right, in the cells. So that is happening in large intestine. Finally, the last part of alimentary canal is anus. Here, the undigested food is removed. So, as we talked about egestion, remember? So, anus is the portion where the undigested food is going to be released outside the body.